The summer afternoon in a quiet neighborhood outside Asheville, North Carolina, looked peaceful, but one unexpected moment changed two lonely lives forever. When the neighbor caught a widowed single father standing in his backyard, his eyes frozen in her direction, everyone would have expected anger or embarrassment. Instead, she surprised him with words that neither of them would ever forget. She simply asked if he could help with the unbearable pain in her back. That single request uncovered a story of grief, kindness, and healing that no one in the neighborhood saw coming. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel if stories like this inspire your heart. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories. Jonathan Carter was 38 years old and had been raising his 8-year-old son, Caleb, alone ever since his wife passed away from a sudden illness 3 years earlier. Every day felt like climbing a mountain. He worked long shifts as a maintenance technician at a local community center before rushing home to cook dinner, help with homework, wash clothes, and somehow find enough strength to smile for his son. The neighbors often saw Jonathan quietly fixing broken fences, trimming trees, or repairing bicycles for children without asking for anything in return. He rarely spoke about his own pain because carrying other people's burdens somehow made his own feel lighter. Next door lived Rebecca Collins, a 42-year-old physical therapist who had recently suffered a serious muscle injury after a hiking accident in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Once energetic and independent, she now struggled with even the simplest daily tasks. The injury had left her with constant back pain that months of treatment had failed to eliminate. Despite helping hundreds of patients throughout her career, she now found herself frustrated by her own limitations. Pride kept her from asking for help, even when lifting a grocery bag became almost impossible. That afternoon Jonathan had been repairing a loose section of his backyard fence when he noticed Rebecca lying on a lounge chair in her backyard, carefully stretching her injured back under the warm sunlight following her doctor's rehabilitation instructions. From where he stood, he recognized the posture immediately because years earlier he had learned several safe stretching and muscle relief techniques while helping his late wife recover from a car accident. He wasn't staring because of curiosity. He was silently debating whether he should say something that might help or simply respect her privacy. Before he could look away, Rebecca noticed him. For a brief second both of them felt awkward. Then Rebecca saw the concern on Jonathan's face instead of embarrassment. She slowly stood up, smiled gently, and surprised him by asking if he knew anything that might ease her back pain. Jonathan hesitated. He carefully explained that he wasn't a doctor but had learned several gentle recovery techniques from licensed therapists years before. Rebecca, exhausted from constant discomfort, decided to trust the quiet man everyone in the neighborhood respected. Over the following weeks Jonathan never crossed boundaries. Instead, he showed Rebecca simple stretches, proper lifting posture, and small daily habits that had once helped his wife regain mobility. Sometimes he simply carried heavy boxes, mowed her lawn, or repaired things around her house so she wouldn't strain her back further. Caleb often joined him, bringing homemade cookies and cheerful conversations that slowly filled Rebecca's once silent home with laughter again. As the weeks turned into months, Rebecca's recovery steadily improved. Her pain became manageable, her confidence returned, and she began hiking short trails once again. But something even greater had changed. Jonathan realized that for the first time since losing his wife, he had smiled without forcing it. Rebecca discovered that healing was not only physical. The loneliness she had buried beneath her professional success had finally begun to fade. One evening the neighborhood organized a small community picnic. Families laughed together while children played baseball in the nearby park. Jonathan watched Caleb laughing with Rebecca as they tossed a frisbee across the grass. At that moment he understood something his grief had hidden for years. Life was not asking him to replace the past. It was quietly giving him permission to live again. The neighbors who had once misunderstood that awkward afternoon now saw the truth. What looked like an uncomfortable misunderstanding had actually become the beginning of a friendship built on respect, compassion, and genuine care. Jonathan never expected to change someone's life simply by offering help. Rebecca never imagined that asking for assistance would restore not only her health but also her hope. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support encourages us to continue bringing inspiring stories that remind us kindness still exists in the world. Special request: before we reach the end, please leave a comment and tell us, have you ever experienced a simple act of kindness that changed your life forever? Months later, Rebecca completed her first full mountain hike since her injury. Jonathan and Caleb stood beside her at the summit, looking across the beautiful American landscape stretching toward the horizon. There were no dramatic speeches, no grand celebrations, only quiet smiles shared between three people who had discovered that healing often begins with a single moment of courage. Sometimes the greatest gift we can offer another person is not a perfect solution but a willing heart. In a world quick to judge appearances, that ordinary afternoon reminded an entire neighborhood that compassion can be hiding behind the most misunderstood moments, and that second chances often arrive disguised as the simplest request for help.